Alrighty, welcome to Bring Your Events A-Game into 2023. I am your moderator today, Matt Solomon of Channel Program, co-founder. And with me today, I've got esteemed peers from around the industry, including somebody on the Channel Program team here as well that many of you definitely should know if you don't. But we'll go around the room here. Caitlyn, we'll start with you, then Christine and Larry.
So I'm Caitlyn Jopp. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Channel Program. Most of the people on the call I do recognize, but I'm excited to chat with Christine and Larry a little bit about events. My background was in events before starting at Channel Program, and then so I've been doing hundreds of a year, it feels like, for the last 7 years now. So lots to talk about today. I'm excited.
Christine?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Christine Gassman. I'm the Director of Channel Engagement for Blackpoint Cyber, and I'm on the events game as well, which is why I'm here. I've been planning our trade shows, road shows, anytime I've hosted events, not only for Blackpoint Cyber, for a couple other organizations aimed at MSP recruitment as well. From the decision-making of what events we're going to the execution, both on-site and pre-event and post-event as well.
Larry.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Larry Meador. I'm the channel chief of Datastream Cyber Insurance, and I'm really here to learn from these three because, man, these guys are legends here. But no, good friends of mine. It's nice to be here. I'm glad to be included, and hopefully I can share some of the tips and tricks that I've done over the years because I've been in the channel now longer than I care to admit. But I had hair when I started. 21 years now. So yeah, I've been out here for a while.
Matt also had hair when he started.
Yeah, no, I like to, I always point this out. I chose this lifestyle before it chose me. I've been shaving my head since I was in high school. No, I've probably spoken at, I don't know, upwards of 200 events and participated, down from the ground level at events. So yeah, I think we have a pretty polished group of event experience here. And really, one of the things we're trying to do at Channel Program is professional development for us vendors, right? I mean, doesn't matter how many events we do, it is always something new to learn. We're always trying to get better. We always want to improve ROI. And truthfully, there's just not a lot of vendor conversations except when we're at events. Like, that's the one time we all get together to have these conversations. And that's something we're trying to change at Channel Program, because right now everything's just about the MSPs in our industry, and we have the benefit of being able to focus on vendors as well. So that is definitely what we're trying to do. And we're going to jump right into it. I think the first question I'm asking here is literally could take up probably the entire conversation, but we'll move things along at our pace. And I will remind everybody, please chime in on the event chat that's open. If there's questions you have for anybody on the panel, definitely want to make sure we get to that. I'm going to kick things off about the die-hard do's and don'ts for in-person events. I think this is something, big topic. So maybe each person can kind of give a couple, and we can bounce around the room. And please, panelists, jump in at any point to have a conversation if somebody brings up something you want to mention. But Christine, why don't we start with you on some of your do's and don'ts?
So we actually just had our annual company-wide kickoff a couple weeks ago, and I did a presentation on the do's and don'ts of trade shows, right? Because we bring all different types of staff out with us at events, and we really have to prep them for it. And some of these things seem so trivial, and some of these things, we may get eye rolls on because it's just like, oh, I would never do that, but it happens. Like, believe it or not, it happens. We have pictures to prove it, which we won't share, we won't shame, but it happens. So, one of the biggest things is, you have to be attractive at your booth. There are so many vendors out here at these events, and obviously you can tell them if you can tell them in a hotel room right now, because I'm at an event right now. And you just got to be attractive at your booth. We see often people sitting down at the booth with their laptop open, with their phones open, and no attendee that's walking around is going to approach you and interrupt you to have a conversation with you. So be open and engaging. Again, seems trivial, seems simple and easy, but I look around the vendor floor floor and I see people sitting with their tabletop, with their laptop open, and you're just not engaging and inviting. So that's the biggest thing is, be engaging and inviting. Another thing I'm going to mention, and then I'll pass it on, is no eating at the booth. I've seen other vendors having a conversation with an attendee with that chicken skewer in their hand and talking and waving it around. And again, seems so trivial, but it's just not inviting and it's not engaging. So no sitting, no looking uninterested, no being on your laptop, your phone, or eating. And we all know we're busy, right? I mean, I've got my staff down at the booth right now because I'm not here because I'm doing this, but I've got other staff managing it. So, if you need to step away, step away. We all know that our work doesn't stop because we're at an event. We all know that, but just step away so you're not looking uninviting at the booth.
The eating thing I find actually really interesting because I, for the longest time, had like a hard rule at AVIC, no sitting and no eating at the booth. But you get really hungry sometimes. That is one of my hard rules to really stick by. And now that conferences put the food right by your booth, it's the hardest one for me.
I say step away. That's absolutely true. We take turns. There's only 2 people here at the booth right now. I mean, some vendors are able to send multiple people. Some are only able to send Larry sometimes. He might be the only person at the booth. But just step away, eat before or eat after. Go and eat with the attendees, fine, but have people at your booth that are not eating.
Totally.
Yep. Caitlyn, go ahead, Larry. Actually, go ahead, Larry, and then we'll let Caitlyn chime in.
Sorry. Well, I was going to say the funnest thing is going to be watching Matt try to corral the 3 of us because, Caitlyn and Christine and I, we tend to kind of drone on a little bit, but Christine just said, make yourself attractive at the booth. I'm screwed, but I'm still going to go anyway. But, don't use the damn 6-foot table as a barrier. Rearrange your booth so that you've created an open space so that people can walk into your booth and engage you in conversation. It absolutely drives me nuts when I see vendors just put that 6-foot table right in front of their booth and they stand behind it. They've created a barrier to entry. You're not going to have good conversations that way. On the food thing, I agree with Christine. Now, I'm guilty of having a cracker or something in there, but I'm not having I don't sit there with a plate and a fork and sit there and eat. Now, it can go 2 ways on this one. Oftentimes they're serving beer and wine at these events. If it's late in the evening, different things like that. Some vendors say, nope, no alcohol in the booth whatsoever. Other vendors say, yeah, we're okay with it because we just think it kind of makes it open. If, everybody else is having a drink and you're having a drink, it just kind of makes it a good little social setting. But yeah, that huge one is that damn barrier of the table being right in front of you. And, like she said, don't sit there on your laptop. Don't sit there texting. I'm getting instant messages all the time internally on my phone. And sometimes I'll glance down at it, but I won't sit there and respond unless there's nobody in sight or I walk away from the booth.
Yeah. The trifecta is the 6-foot table, sitting down, eating, laptop open. I see it so much. And those are the vendors that are usually not seeing that return or that engagement at the booth.
I thought of another one. Those of us that take I can't talk. Those of us that have multiple people working the booth, I can't tell you how many times I've walked by a vendor's booth and all of the internal people are having a conversation and an MSP walks up and is kind of like, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, somebody want to talk to me? And the vendors are so engrossed in their own conversation that they forgot why they're there. They're there to talk to the MSPs, the MSSPs, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I would say one thing that didn't get mentioned, and again, anybody that knows me at events knows that I'm super stickler for this, which also drives tons of conversations, is you cannot take anything from my booth unless I scan your badge or get a business card or we have a conversation about whatever it is that we're trying to sell the MSPs on. So many missed opportunities I see at events are from MSPs coming in, grabbing a swag item, and then if they don't initiate the convo or they don't have a question, the vendors just let them walk on. But you just don't know where those combos can go. So many upsell opportunities, specifically with partners. I think vendors forget too that a lot of these events are partner engagement, not just new customer and new lead acquisition. that upsell opportunity is there too. As vendors as a whole, we don't do a great job sometimes of reiterating where our product solution is going in roadmap or recent releases or whatever. And that's another great opportunity at events to engage those partners, let them know what's new, make sure that they're getting the most value out of their relationship as well.
Yep.
And scan. Because
that's
that
huge.
Yeah.
Well, I know Matt has this on his question, so I agree with you 100%. Caitlin, I'm excited to talk about the difference between partner engagement and then also lead generation, but I know Matt has that as a question coming, so I'm going to stay quiet about that. I'm excited to talk about that too.
And on the tchotchkes, sorry, Matt, I told you this is going to be like trying to rein us
No,
out.
I mean, it's all good conversation, so it doesn't matter.
When Caitlin brought up the tchotchkes or the swag, whatever you call it, we always have swag and good swag. And the good swag goes in the back of the booth, and I will like body block people because you've got the tchotchke grabbers that just you're engaged in conversation with another MSP, and people are just coming up going, oh, look what they've got. Let me stuff it in my bag and stuff like that. You can take my pins, but you're not getting the good stuff because you're going to have to come through me or my team to get to the good stuff. So we put that on the back table back there.
And remember, like there is cost of being at events. Anytime somebody takes a white paper, a tchotchke, anything like that, there is a cost. And that's where that lead acquisition is going to see your ROI, whether it's, like I said, upsells, cross sells to current partners or new customer acquisition. So I know trade shows, it's super easy to get caught up in the food and the drinks and the exterior events that are happening. But at the end of the day, they are lead generation initiatives. So yes, make sure you're getting your ROI on that.
Yeah. One thing, actually, Caitlin and I were talking about this the other day, and I do understand not everybody has the luxury, especially women, because the clothes in the channel, like it doesn't always lend itself to being able to be branded always. But my advice, I think we lost Christine there. Hopefully, just jump back in. Is if possible, always be branded. At a conference, there's always an opportunity to have a conversation. So whether you're on the elevator, things like that, and we now see again Christine, so we're good. I always just felt like, yeah, there you go. And Larry, your hat thing's become kind of a shtick, right? Like that's become a thing. You know, like Eric Torres, his glasses has become a thing. Not all of us have the luxury of like being able to be our own brand. Like everybody just recognizes who you are and what company you work for. So just remember, there are hundreds of MSPs that don't know who your brand is. Believe it or not, like there's hundreds and thousands really. So always be branded, especially if you're an emerging vendor. You just don't have that luxury. You always need to be seen.
Larry, I was super glad to see the Datastream hat post back this morning. First one I saw of 2023. Yeah.
That was such.
Matt is going to eat his words this year in terms of being a personal brand for anybody that's on this call.
Yeah.
No one can tell us he didn't ask for it after this.
Yeah, I told Caitlin I want to be branded from like head to toe, and there's not everybody will get this reference, but some people will. If you've seen the original Wayne's World movie, there's a scene when they talk about being branded and selling out, and they're literally selling out at the exact same time. And there's a scene where Garth is like head to toe in Reebok, and he's just kind of talking about how it makes him just sick to see people selling out to corporate America. So that's what I want to be. I want to be stacked from top to bottom in personal brand. But Larry, I mean, maybe you can talk about like this hat has become a little thing for you.
The hat has taken on its own life. And it's a funny story how it started. I was in Boston. I was out there by Fenway with the big sign and everything. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to take a selfie, which I hate doing, but I was going to take a selfie and send it to my kids. And then I was like, hey, you know what? Let's get me out of this. Let's just do Datastream and Fenway. And I just happened to post it on LinkedIn. And I was just like, holy hell, 1,000 impressions? You got to be kidding me. So every time we'd go to an event somewhere, I would try to find some distinguishing landmark, you know, like in the Tampa airport, they got that big, huge flamingo. When I was also in Tampa, Ybor City, DC, Philadelphia, I would go find something and I'd just do that picture of the hat And it literally took on a life of itself. So it's kind of, I got so lucky. It's a gimmick, but find a gimmick that works for you. I mean, those of you that know me on Facebook and on LinkedIn, you've seen, hey, the hat came back this year, and we've just hired Desiree Thomas to our team. She took a picture of the hat up in the airport. And here's the beautiful thing. We're giving these hats to our partners. They're now starting to take pictures of the hat in various places they go. So it's all of a sudden, it's phenomenal marketing and brand awareness.
It is, and that's actually how the little polar bears at Avik started as well. So anybody that knows me from when I was at Avik, Nanook actually had his own Instagram that I took all over. I think it was
maybe I ought to do that.
Yeah, and then we had a hashtag Where's the Bear, and we encouraged a lot of our partners who had Nanooks to take photos all over the world and send them in, and we gave away a weekly T-shirt for it. And some of the photos we got were absolutely insane. And then actually DattoCon 2019 in Austin, Texas, one of the guys actually stole the polar bear suit and was taking it on the plane with him and doing like actual him is like, Where's the Bear all over the East Coast. It turned into like this crazy thing. So yeah, I definitely recommend if you guys have one of those like kitschy types of things and you see it getting traction, just like build on it. Like the worst that could happen is it doesn't pick up.
Yep.
Well, and speaking of like branded swag, yeah, and speaking of branded swag, we have T-shirts, which we love. Like we like coming up with fun sayings, song lyrics, etc. And we actually did a social media promo contest, like asking our partners and other MSPs to vote on what their favorite T-shirt was. And at one of the biggest ones, and it's my favorite, we have it here at Schniz Fest, that anyone that's listening that's here and wants to come pick one up. But one of them, it says that the MDR of your dreams with a unicorn on it. And when marketing came up with it, we came up with it, everyone's like, no MSP is going to walk around wearing that shirt. It was the number one voted one. Everybody wanted it, and it's fun, right? So we got our partners involved. They voted on it. Now they come by the booth, they pick it up, and they feel a part of it because they voted on it, right? And one thing I want to say too, because logistics is a big part of all that we're doing at events. I cannot reiterate enough. If you're giving T-shirts out, there is a company that rolls them and stickers them and labels them for you, and it is a game changer. I'm just going to mention that quickly. I will share that company if anyone is interested. But I'm a big proponent of sharing that because that is huge at events.
Yeah, Christine, yes. You maybe just if you want to share that in the chat, because I agree that's a waste of time also when you're at an event.
Yeah, and it's a company. It's Coggins, Coggins. Super Coggins.
Cool.
They're fantastic.
I love to see the unicorn. Humanize IT is doing the unicorn right now. So.
All right, I'm going to Larry, and then I'm changing topics after this.
I was also going to say, and I'm not necessarily a proponent of this, but damn, it works. If you can wear your swag in the airport and on the airplane, do it. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I have been stopped and asked about cyber insurance because of my hat, because of a backpack, because of a shirt that I'm wearing. And I really don't like wearing vendor swag or whatever through the airport, but I've learned, damn, it really does work and people will engage you. So, there you go.
Yeah. ABS, always be swagged. Mm-hmm. All right. So, the next topic we're going to talk about is around tips and tricks of how we can actually try to guarantee ourselves ROI at events, which is a big thing for everybody. But I also want to tease another thing we're going to be talking about because I want people to stick around. Because I think, again, we're hitting on really important topics. One of the other things we're going to talk about is in terms of sponsorships, are there certain things that are just a straight up hard pass? And we collectively have not talked about this. So it's going to be various opinions, I have a feeling. But I think that just as important of what to sponsor is what not to sponsor, what not to waste money on. So that's a little teaser for later. But first, we're going to hit in tips and tricks to guarantee ROI on the events you are sponsoring. Caitlyn, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think it just goes back to like making sure that you are getting as many leads as possible at the event, whether that's through a giveaway and business cards, scanning badges, making sure that you're having those really like detailed conversations. With that being said, it's going to really come down to pre-planning. I think, Christine, you have some great strategies for these, so I'm going to keep mine short and let you expand. But like that follow-up campaign to your event is going to be what drives some of your ROI if it doesn't happen at the event in person. So many vendors just forget about leads lists. They forget to upload their scans, or they upload them a month later. And these MSPs are hearing from 20, 40, 50 other vendors that they've spoken to at the event. So to make sure that you have a unique message, a very well-defined CTA or next step. I know Christine's going to touch on personal outreaches. Just go in with a plan, never just like wing it. And I see this a lot with emerging vendors, or some of the smaller ones just coming into the space. They don't plan out their follow-up, and those leads go extremely cold for them at a time where every lead is gold. So that would be my tidbit: is plan, and then make sure to execute.
Christine?
Yeah, so
your name was brought up.
So agree completely with all that. The planning phase is really integral in, deciding what is going to be your on-site strategy. So I'm sure everyone on this call and everyone listening has heard, at the booth, I'm a current partner, you don't have to worry about me. Well, that's why we're here, right? So I want to reiterate that current partner engagement is huge for us at these events. Again, an MSP will come up like, I'm already a partner. Like, don't worry about me. Don't waste your time on me. Well, that's why we're here also. So we look at it twofold. It's partner engagement. So what we do as a call to action at our booth is, if someone comes up and they're already working with Blackpoint Cyber, great. How's it going? We've got our qualifying questions to make sure that they know everything that's going on, our new releases, new features, new materials we may have in the partner portal, whatever it is. And if we catch them on something that they're not aware of, our goal is to book them with our call with our partner success manager. And we book that right on site, because again, when these MSPs are out at events, everyone's got a different agenda, but they're to learn, they're to connect with vendors as well. So we don't want to sit there and go over our long list of new features and new releases there at the booth, because they just don't have time. They want to move on. So what we do is we offer to schedule a call with their partner success manager to go over, make sure they're up to date on everything that we have going on, make sure they're taking advantage of marketing development funds, all that good stuff. So a big part of our sponsorship at events is engaging with our current partners. So that's one aspect of it. And then Caitlyn, you mentioned lead generation. We're here to talk to new MSPs as well, of course. So some of the biggest things that we look for within budget, of course, because some of these events, as we all know, can be very expensive. We want the opportunity to speak. We want to be able to share our message and then have MSPs show us their interest from there. When we get up on stage, we present, say, hey, come by the booth. We're going to make it as easy as possible for you to access this information, but come by and talk to us at the booth. We give out an email address on stage with an automatic bounce back of information. So if they don't get the opportunity to come and talk to us, we're still getting the information in front of them. But again, it's twofold. It's meeting with our current partners and giving them an action to take at the booth, and then talking to new MSPs as well and making the information as easily accessible to them as possible.
Nope, absolutely. And speaking from my perspective, this past year, Datastream, we were new to the channel. So the first part of the year was really just about, gathering the leads, gathering new partners, all of that good stuff. But as things went on throughout the year, never forget, this is a relationship-based channel. We had partners coming up to us that were like, oh yeah, man, I signed up back in March. It's good to see you, it's September, something like that. It's good to see you back here. I got lots of questions for you. We quickly discovered that we went from, acquiring new MSPs, even though we were still doing it, but it was really the ability, and it enabled us to continue to build the relationships with those existing partners because they wanted to come up and talk to us. So what Christine said, it's huge. Talk to your existing partners, because this may be the one time you get to see them face to face, because some of these guys only go to one, maybe two events. So take advantage of it. Yeah, get the new ones. But do not ignore your existing partners, because that's, what's the old adage? It's far cheaper to keep an existing customer than it is to attract a new one. Learn from those existing partners. Learn from them.
Another really good ROI for Datastream is to find the one person that has the same name that is an MSP, and then mistaken that person for their CEO.
Yes, I wonder who did that.
and then they will become customers.
That was hilarious. That was absolutely hilarious. There's a Datastream MSP out in California, and
Yeah,
Caitlyn,
which
or
I
somebody
am
we know,
already just
somebody
so
we know.
awkward. Just had a whole conversation with him about a business he doesn't own. So, but it worked out for Larry, so that was
It worked
good.
out great for me. At least you weren't. Yeah, it was fantastic. I'll take it any day. That you can also put that little channel program badge right in your booth that I had. Where was that? IT Nation that you brought that to me?
We did those, yeah. So I do see a few partners on the call here, so I'm sure you will also be getting your little channel program preferred partner sign at some point or another this year.
Yeah. And Caitlyn, you had talked about like kind of the pre-planning. You'll see in the different forums that we're all kind of involved with, you'll see MSPs saying they're going to XYZ event, right? So you don't always typically know every MSP that's attending an event. But when you start to see people chiming in, there is an opportunity to reach out to them in advance of the event and say, hey, give them a reason to swing by, but sort of try to get a pre-planned meeting. I mean, it doesn't have to be some formal thing, but swing by for this reason,
Yeah, I think pre-planned meetings at events specifically are often overlooked because vendors think MSPs will just be jam-packed with like content back-to-back days, them trying to find a moment to get caught up on their own work, but they are there to learn and they are there to meet with you. So if there's the opportunity to have a quick coffee with a prospect or a partner, I would suggest, if you have the staff, to take the time and make that opportunity happen, because you don't get that face-to-face time a lot, and sometimes it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I agree. And we actually have a process in place. We just recently started it, I'll say halfway through last year, where we have a form that our sales team can fill out, whether they're, the initial contact with a prospective MSP or, one of our top partners. There's a form they can fill out saying, yes, my partner's going to this event. This is something that they might want to talk about, or just they're at this event, please meet up with them. And we'll even if we don't meet up with them or see them, I'll reach out and invite them to dinner or tell them what booth number we're at, or, in some way engage with them. So if we know they're going to be there, and, it's hard when there's so many different people, if you've got a large sales team, they're out there talking to them. They can't just forward an email to me every single time they've got a partner going. So we have it in a form. And then in our team prep calls, we say, okay, these are the MSPs that are going to be there. This is what's going on with them. We either need to schedule a meeting, or we need to invite them to dinner, or just make sure we get them to the booth to chat.
Yeah, I love that. And dinners are another thing that I think are extremely underrated in the planning process. MSPs have to eat, vendors have to eat. If you have the budget, try to do it together. A lot of business that I've closed personally as a vendor has happened through small, intimate group dinners.
Yeah. And if I could, Matt, am I allowed to add something here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, since you guys are talking about this, there's, another huge thing, and I know Caitlyn's a big proponent of this. Stay visible. The event is all day and most of the night. It's not just the 2, 4, 6 hours that you're at the booth. So, if it's one of those short events where you only have like 2 or 3 hours of floor time, don't disappear. Don't go up to your room. I mean, sometimes you have to. I know you got conference calls. I've got them too as well. But try to get down. If you can do them in the lobby or in the lobby or a common area, the hallway, stay visible, because you never know who's going to walk up and say, oh man, I forgot to get to your booth, but I want to come talk to you. Yeah. That and the other, where business is done at these events. Anybody want to take one guess?
The bar.
The bar. Exactly. Don't disappear. Go to the bar. You're going to find people sitting there. Mind your P's and Q's, but go to the bar. You're going to conduct more business at the bar than you will on the show floor at any event, in my opinion.
And we actually have a great blog on the channel program website. I'll try and find it, about networking specifically. We also did a webinar about it last year, and how you can maximize your networking time. As I get older and my grandma tendencies set in, the bar gets harder and harder for me, but I never regret rallying and like making out, making it out there.
Well, and I think it's important to point out, it doesn't mean you have to drink heavily. Like, I barely drink at the events for the most part. So just being there, right? Just having the conversations. And the last thing I wanted to go back to around the pre-meetings that you can set up. So again, if it's a prospect and you set up that meeting, and stuff will happen, meetings will get canceled. They'll say, sorry, I wasn't able to make it. The beauty of it, to me, is they will then take a meeting with you after the event, because it's very rare that somebody agrees to a meeting, isn't able to make it, and then just completely blows you off. They'll actually give you time after the event. So I think that's another opportunity there with regards to pre-meetings. So I do want to switch gears a bit, getting into sponsorship opportunities you guys find that are just a hard pass. I'm not interested in that. Again, I think generally most people feel, and we can flip it around into things that you think are big opportunities. Obviously, speaking is very important. The ROI on speaking at an event pales in comparison to just having a booth. There's really no comparison. But let's maybe focus first on things that you've taken a hard pass on, and then you can get into things that you are always doing if you want. So Larry, we'll start with you this time. Do you have any?
I knew you were coming my way. No, I do. I'm just trying to figure out how I want to phrase this.
The toughest part is going to be not throwing anyone under the bus.
Well, yeah,
you got to bingo. That's what I'm trying to do here.
Identify the conference, obviously. But.
No.
Yeah. So let me see if I can do this. Yeah.
Do you want me to do one? I have one, Larry, and I can do it, and I'll straight up be really blunt about it if you want me to go.
Okay, yeah, you go, because then I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to phrase mine.
All right. Stop wasting your money on lanyard sponsors.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
Well, there's a place for it. I guess if you were the Datos of the world, Christine, when you were there, I know Dato would probably spend that kind of money. If you're an emerging vendor, that is a complete waste of money. I get that you want some of the branding around it. You want people to know you, but I am just telling you from experience, the ROI is not going to be there for the cost. Now, if you can get it thrown in, 100% have it. Don't spend money on, my two areas are lanyards and cocktail napkins. Get those thrown in. That's a great bonus as an emerging vendor. It is not worth paying for. So there you go, Larry. Or Christine, I look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, maybe this will set you up, Larry. So, my first thing I want to say is that it really just depends on, and you mentioned emerging vendor, Matt, right? It depends on where you are and what your goals are. Right. So to someone, and maybe an emerging vendor whose name is not out there, maybe having the lanyards with their logo on it, just to say, okay, well, who's Datastream? I don't know who Datastream is. Let me find them. That's a new vendor. It really just depends on what you're doing at events. It depends on your goal. Is it brand recognition? Are you just trying to get your name out there right now? Maybe you don't have time to follow up on all the leads, but you're building your database, right? Maybe your goal is, I need to collect as many names as possible to build up my database, start marketing to them, start educating them, and then really go after them when I build out a sales team. In that situation, sponsor those parties that you don't have a speaking spot, you don't have a whole lot of branding, but you're getting a list, right? So if the goal is to build up your database, those types of activities where, you might not necessarily have direct engagement, but you're gaining names, that is certainly attractive to a certain level of vendor, right? Where we are right now, what we're doing is our focus for 2023 is not necessarily quantity, it's now quality. But for a while it's been quantity, right? We're still a relatively new vendor in this space. So we're working to build up our database, and we're working on collecting as many names to market to as possible. Now our strategy and our approach is we want to do the events, and we want to do the opportunities within those events that's going to allow us to directly speak to those MSPs at the booth, at boardrooms, at keynote presentations, et cetera. So our goal now is engagement, but that doesn't, really, I'm not knocking the vendors that are out there that need to build up their database. So those types of opportunities are, solid for them. It really just depends on what your goals are and where you're at in your, company's, goals.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. And touching on that, so just going back again, being an emerging vendor, a lot of those initiatives where you get list sharing and parties and things like that, they're amazing. Something that I always stay cognizant of, and again, there's very few vendors in this space, and they've done a good job at cleaning this up, because I'm sure most of us know who we're talking about. Make sure the data that you're getting from those parties is clean data and data that you can upload into the database. because nothing is worse than spending $10,000-$15,000 on an initiative like that and then getting a bunch of like Gmail addresses, for example.
Mhm.
And then vendor dilution is also something that I like always think about with these sponsored parties or like other possible like exposure opportunities at events is how many other vendors are you going to be going up against? And is your logo going to get noticed? Because that brand awareness, if that is your goal, is something that you just have to be cognizant of as well, because like you can easily get lost in a sea of 30 other logos. So just be cognizant of that as well. My one thing I think that's always been something that if I could scoop it up, I would. It is a little bit more of like a pricier item, but is the backpack logos. I know all of us have seen those Datto backpacks. They kind of coined the co-branded backpack initiative. I still see those in the airports. I have seen a few of the Avic logos on the one year that we sponsored it. Again, it just goes back to like Larry stating that like if you can wear it in the airport, do it. Backpacks are something that people are always traveling with, so that's really great. And then just again, like what Christine was saying, speaking opportunities are obviously amazing. But don't rule out like the fun stuff that you can do as well. Like if there is a small cocktail reception that you and a few other vendors can sponsor, that possibly you get that list or that dedicated networking time. Those are great ways to spend your money up front because those people that are invited are usually invited because they're of a certain size or a certain caliber with the person throwing the event, and you get the exposure to those MSPs that may not come to your booth. So I would say my personal takeaway from this would be networking opportunities over like things that may just end up in a box or something, or conversation pieces. So like the backpack logos or what are some other really cool things?
You guys are being very timid. You're not like coming out with like hard line.
Listen, I have a hard line. I have a hard line. If you really elevator clings, like floor clings, like things like that, for me, they're expensive. They can be expensive. When I threw Frankly MSP Live, most of our like clings that we did, I threw in for free because like nobody was really, we weren't pushing for people to pay for them. Lanyards, I agree. I have a collection of probably hundreds and hundreds of badges that I've kept over the course of my career. I couldn't tell you a single person that's sponsored.
Well, I bet you, and I want to go to Larry here to think. I bet you if you polled an audience after an event, like 24 hours after an event, and said who was the sponsor on the land, not be able to identify the sponsor.
I can tell you who the sponsor on the lanyard was at IT Nation. Shout out to ImmyBot. They were the sponsor, but that's only because Matt and I got in a huge in-depth conversation about the lanyard sponsorship over it.
Yeah, it's a little different when we're like in that space. How about yourself?
Well, Matt, to your point, I actually just looked around. So I mentioned earlier, I'm at an event right now, and I actually just looked around for my badge because I can't tell you who the lanyard sponsor is, and it's over there. I can't reach it, but I couldn't tell you whose name is on the lanyard. I honestly don't remember. So good point.
Yeah.
I bet it's not channel program.
It is not.
I know what I'm not requesting to spend our marketing dollars on in 2023.
Yeah. Go ahead, Larry. How about yourself? Anything that stick out for you?
No, I think they've covered the ones that I was thinking about. I was kind of taking a bigger picture look because there was an event that somebody in our organization wanted to do, but the event sponsor can be a bit of an abrasive personality. And when our CEO caught wind of this live in person, he flat out told us we're never, ever sponsoring that event. So that's where I was going with the hard no here. I wasn't thinking lanyards or stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I was trying to politically figure out how to say this without.
Yeah. That's fine. You don't have to share that too much.
Before I forget, hotel keys are another thing that I could never like get on board with, but I also go through like 15 hotel keys in every event. And then like room drops. Room drops are always so expensive and it gets like thrown in my room and then right into the trash. So like those are kind of things, I think. Although, actually, I shouldn't say that. Somebody did give me socks once in a room drop, and I'm sure they thought I was an MSP and I wasn't. But I still have those socks to this day. Shout out
Christine,
to Dale Pad.
I think you had something else you wanted to
Yeah,
add.
I want to go back to what Larry said. So you're looking for hard nose, and I'm being very Switzerland here because, again, I think it really just depends on what it is that you want to accomplish, right? But
Nope, no lanyards.
no lanyards. We're good on that, right? We're good on that. You've got your branding opportunities, again, if you just want to get your name out there. But I'm on board. I agree with you. But the next thing you know, the next event you're at, you're going to see Blackpoint on the logo, although I'm agreeing with you, right? No, so speaking of, what Larry was saying about, like, I hadn't thought about it until this point, but there's got to be a partnership in place with these event organizers. And if that partnership is not in place, and, the way we look at it, we're not just giving an event organizer money, it's a partnership. And if we don't feel that it is a two-way street, I am not inclined to do it again. So Larry mentioned a specific organization, not by name, but there are other organizations that I've worked with. And again, I'm not just giving them money and then I'm on my own out of an event. It shouldn't be like that. And I don't want it to be like that. And there are unfortunately some organizations out there that like, oh, well, you're paying to get in front of my base. You're on your own kind of thing. And it doesn't feel like a partnership. And those I won't repeat those events if I don't feel like it's, again, a two-way street and a partnership, certain events you're at, something might not go right. And you deliver that feedback, appropriately, and they do what they can to help you because they want you to see value in what they're doing. And not all event organizers are like that.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch topics here in a second. The only other thing I thought of, and this is not a straight hard no, but it is depends on the cost. It's push notifications on an app at an event. I think there's value at the right price, and I do think they're often way too expensive. But here's a trick, and a tip, I guess, and I don't see too many conference attendees. I think we have mostly vendors here. That to me is a add-on that you ask for at no additional cost.
Yeah.
So, there's a few freebie opportunities that you kind of know when you look at these prospectuses when they're like $1,000 or $2,000. Those are the ones you try to go for, right? In the worst case, they say no, that's fine. But always ask, ask, right?
You can also, as a trick, go back like a week or two before an event and see if there's any leftover deliverables that you can possibly add for either a discounted cost or to have thrown into your sponsorship for maybe like you sending an email to promote the event or something like that. A lot of vendors don't sell out of everything that they're trying to sell leading into the event. So being able to kind of like leverage that to maybe possibly get yourself a little bit more brand exposure in one way or another is always something that isn't taken advantage of, but should be.
Yeah, that's a great one. All right, so Christine, this one actually came from you. It was around, and I think it's a very important topic, and it was around personal touch, personal follow-ups after events, right? So you've done the hard work out of the event, but certain events like like an IT Nation or Robin Robbins Boot Camp, I mean, you're talking 100 vendors at some of those, and so MSPs are in theory getting 30 to 70 messages. So how do you stand out, and how do you differentiate yourself from in the follow-up? So yeah, just kind of curious to go maybe around the room to see if there's different things you've heard or seen work in the industry. So Christine, since it was your question, you get the first answer.
Awesome. So one of the biggest things that I love about my job is building relationships with not only vendors, but not only the MSPs, I should say, but with vendors. So we're out at these events, all of us, right? We're traveling out at these events. We're having great conversations with people. We're making connections. And then we collect their info, we give it to somebody else back in the office, and they reach out to them. And you lose that personal touch. So we've done it for a while. And then you see that person out at an event, and again, you give them a hug. You're so excited to see them. You're asking about their kids, whatever you bonded over at the bar or dinner or whatever. And you've got that connection, but it's not getting into your follow-up. So one of the things that we've been trying, and I don't have time to email everyone myself a personal note. So one of the things that we've been really trying hard to do, recently and this year for sure, its initiative is every person that goes to an event, if they connect with somebody, they're taking notes on it. right? They're finding out, not just, oh, they're interested in this and using this product, but really if they make a connection with them when they follow up with that MSP saying, oh, it was great meeting you, how's the, search for, your kid's college going, or whatever it is. And you ask that question. And you know what, honestly, when it happens with me, when someone's trying to sell me and follows up with me and says, hey, how's your dog doing? Forget about it. Like, of course I'm answering, right? So making that personal connection. And it can be hard to do, to be clear, because there's a lot of names that you're collecting and few people that are engaging with them. But we've come up with a plan where each person is responsible for doing an introduction or, passing on that information to whoever it is that's going to be calling them. If I have a solid enough connection with an individual, I'll do the head off myself. I might even sit on the demo if they're interested in the demo, because again, I want that personal touch. So however you can do that with whatever bandwidth and resources you have, I think it's really important because it shows that your conversation with that person really stood out. Right.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're really trying hard to do, to keep that connection going from the live event. Because again, we meet them, we have a great time with them. We see them 2 months later, 3 months later at another event. We have a great time with them again, but then it fizzles when a stranger is contacting them on the follow-up.
Yeah,
Got it.
That's actually really, really good advice. I think building those personal connections with MSPs, even your vendors, if you get a chance, is really important. It's so easy for us to be like business, business, business. But with the amount some of us travel, a lot of y'all are road families. So to be able to have that kind of personal touch and making time to really like foster those relationships and those friendships, I think is really important.
Absolutely. And, the other thing I was just going to say is, lean on your vendor friends. I'm friends with Christine. I'm friends with Caitlyn. I'm friends with Matt. Christine, maybe I want to meet somebody, and Christine's over there having a conversation. Hey, walk up. Christine, can you introduce me real quick? Or, Caitlyn, you talked about this guy the other day. I really need to meet him. Can you introduce me? Different things like that. One of the other things I wanted to touch on is keep in mind, like Matt said, some of these big events, you're one of 100 vendors, and that MSP is getting inundated, sometimes within minutes after they leave a booth. I'm not an advocate of contacting somebody that quick because they're not going to see it. Some people want to contact the day after the event. Jury's out. Some people like it, some people don't. I tend to like to wait a good 4 or 5 days because those guys are going to be so inundated trying to get caught up that I'm just going to become it's noise. It is noise when it comes in there too quick.
Yeah.
So you got to really kind of time it. And Matt, Caitlyn, you guys could do a whole nother one of these things on how to communicate and contact these guys. Text message, phone call, email, sequences, a little bit of everything. I mean, there's one MSP that posted something the other day on Facebook that I was looking at, and he, 144,000 SMS messages in 1 year. I mean, it was just, these guys get inundated, so it's hard to get their attention. And most of them sit there and say, if I don't have a relationship with you, if I don't know you, if I don't know you personally, yeah, you're noise to me. So you gotta use those relationships, whether you've got the relationship or one of your friends has got the relationship, work like heck to get that relationship built with that MSP.
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember that Rome's not always built in a day, like so to
Nope.
speak, is like those relationships. I have always been a proponent of building relationships first and business will come second. Most of the people on this phone call have shared Shake Shack with me. Most of them have had their conversations about dogs with Christine. Larry and I bonded over gambling in Las Vegas. It was a common thing.
Losing money.
So I think while it's important for you to create those like memorable tidbits about yourself and build those relationships on those like personal brand points, it's for the long game. Don't do it disingenuously because it will be noticed.
Yes.
You really want to foster those relationships from an authentic place, and that will happen over time.
Yep.
Bingo.
So we've covered a lot of topics. I don't even think we hit on half of the questions that we had planned. We've been talking about events. Caitlyn, can you imagine a world where a vendor would be able to go to a single place to find out every event going on in the industry? Can you imagine that? Is that something?
Utopia for us event planners.
All right, so
Nirvana.
So that is my blatant advertisement for, and this really is a benefit to everybody in the community. Channel Program has the most consolidated industry calendar in the space. It actually goes down to the webinar level. So if you have thought leadership webinars or demo days, things like that, you can actually add them in. Right now, this is inside our platform. We're going to have an Excel spreadsheet that you'll be able to pull from as well. But really, just use it as a resource. I mean, I personally use it every time somebody's like, hey, can you do this week? And I'm like, well, what's going on in the industry? I have no idea. And all the events are pretty much listed, and it's going to continue to grow as vendors add more of the content into this. And so if you're a channel program partner, you can actually upload your webinars. If you're not, you can't upload your webinars, so you should actually reach out to us to talk about how you can get involved. But Larry, you had something to say.
Yeah, I just had an idea as I was looking at that because the calendar is phenomenal. I was telling you guys this earlier when you came out with it. I was like, oh, this is great. But as I was just looking at that, maybe version 2.0, would there be a way for vendors to select an event and say, hey, we're going to be there?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was discussed. So yeah, you could basically kind of like add yourself to the Robbins Producers Club, kind of like we're going to be here, and then they would be able to click for more information. Yeah, so that's definitely something that's been discussed. But it is important to mention right now on the current version, there's live links for registration, so it's a good opportunity to drive traffic to your event. And you got to remember, like, we're not going to drive hundreds of MSPs to your event, but 2 or 3, 4 or 5, like, if they're the right 4 or 5 people, that is all that matters. I just came back from Chris Weiser's 7-figure event. We worked in partnership with them on that event. One of the MSPs that had never heard of his event came to the event and signed a 3-year contract with Chris, which I can tell you is worth a lot of money to 7-figure. So again, same thing. Like, if the right MSP gets to your event, and trust me, these MSPs, they're all in their own pockets. We certainly have gotten a lot of MSPs that don't attend a lot of the in-person events. So I think we're drawing in a different audience that some of the vendors don't necessarily connect with. So there is that massive opportunity to get the word out. We're going to get to a point here shortly where we'll send out a weekly newsletter to our entire database saying these are the events going on this week in the industry. And I've short-term done a version of that through my LinkedIn newsletter, which goes out to about 3,500 people in the industry. So again, I would encourage you. It's free advertising, basically. So, definitely make sure you upload it. And again, if you're not a channel program partner and you want more information, you can reach out. So I don't know, Caitlyn, where do you want to end things today? You want the final word?
No, I think we covered some great topics. When we decided to do this webinar, could not have thought of 2 better people to discuss these things with. So I really appreciate both of you guys joining. Like Matt said, I feel like I could talk about this like all day.
Same.
Oh, we could.
This is such a fun topic to discuss, and thank you for including me because I love this. We could go on and on and on, but I already have some LinkedIn connections from some of the vendor attendees, and this is a collaborative effort. And like Matt said, Matt and I sat down at Marketopia's GrowCon and really discussed events and detail and stuff, and it's so much fun, and we're always learning new things, right? I've been at this for longer than I care to admit, like Larry mentioned, but I'm still learning new stuff as well. Someone that just connected with me on LinkedIn, they might have something to share that I'm not doing. So I love the collaborative effort for sure.
Yeah,
I love that.
And like I said, we're going to continue to do these thought leadership stuff that is, and it's great because I know we have some MSPs, at least 1 or 2 that are in attendance. A lot of this is applicable to MSPs as well. I mean, I know we're concentrating on our vendor experiences, but MSPs are putting out doing events, so a lot that is applicable to them, which is nice. But again, I think, from a professional development standpoint, there's just not a lot for us vendors. So I think coming together as a community is pretty fun and awesome. And we're all, I don't know, everybody, most of the people in our space are just awesome people. So it makes it a pleasure. So thank you to Christine and Larry for joining. Obviously, Caitlyn, thank you for organizing this and putting this together. And thank you all. And we hope to see you either on Channel Program or on the road at an event.
Yeah,
thanks for thinking of us, man. That was awesome. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, everyone.
Matt's going, oh, man, I escaped. I was able to corral him in.
Yeah. Thanks, folks.
Have a great week.